Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Marriage is Tougher Than Woodpecker Lips podcast. This is Brian, joined by my co-host, Paul. We'd like to welcome you to a community meant for the men of the world to share their thoughts and perspectives on marriage. We can learn from each other's experiences and help each other be better husbands. This week on the pod, we want to talk to you about why is it that she makes it look easy? All the things that she does that we wish we could do, and we get mad that she could do it so easily.
And before we hop all the way into our anger issues, I'd like for you to take a time to connect with us. There are many opportunities. You can look up Marriage is Tougher on all social media platforms, or you can go to marriageisttougher.com, our website, click the contact button at the top. It'll take you to a form that you can fill out. If you'd like to be a guest, you can do the same thing. Reach out to us via DM or go to our website. At our website, we also have all of our archived episodes, so you can catch up with us. And we just appreciate you if this is your first time checking us out, or if you've been rocking with us for a while. So again, search Marriage is Tougher anywhere if you'd like to connect. And let's get into the show.
Yeah. So what's the number one thing that your wife does and makes it look super easy, and maybe you wish it was easy for you too?
The easy answer is parenting. There's and more specifically, patience and parenting. Number two answer still has to do with parenting, but it's being able to answer those random questions that the kids have that are way out of left field and probably too mature for their age group, but being able to answer quickly with something that is relevant will satisfy their question, like it's a suitable answer, but also not be too much.
Yeah.
So that's those are my 1A and 1B, but they all have to do with parenting. What about you?
Yeah, I think I would have gone down that same path as well as the parenting piece. I think about how I am intentionally trying to repair the relationship with my oldest daughter, right? And maybe repair is the wrong word, because it's not like the relationship is broken by any stretch. It's more or less, I've noticed that we're not as close as we used to be. And it's because, or at least my thought of why I think that is that I hadn't been around between like all of the work that I was doing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I just started noticing when she was smaller, and I understand that there's seasons for these things, but when she was smaller, like it was run to daddy, right? And now it's like, I want to talk to mommy. And she's getting to that age where I understand like that's probably going to start happening more and more, where, she's just going to want to talk to a female. So I get that. But I think I am already starting to miss the former relationship we had, right? And I still want her to be able to talk to me about anything. And it just seems a lot easier for my wife to do that, right? And then even just with the other kids as well, which is why I put it together. Like it's not just, that female to female scenario, but like my son, my youngest daughter as well, right? Like, and maybe it's just because the way I come off as like very strict, and like I don't really bend with the rules very much, right? So I don't know, I think there's a lot of pieces to it, but
And I was just thinking about something. I don't know. My daughter said she was going to ask for something, and she's like, I'm going to ask mommy. Like, because she knows I'm usually like the stickler of the rules. And I think that's a good balance. I mean, you have to have that, especially I think we're privileged in the space where we live in a 2-parent home. We have you guys are, debt free and all that stuff. And we're working towards there, but we have a different level of finances than when we grew up, I think. And so being able to give our kids a lot more than we had at our age, and a lot more opportunities. Not that they're entitled, but there's not a the default is I can't do this to you because we don't have it. It's I can't do it because like either that's the rule or like something. It's more of a principle based. I think for us as dads, like we're more like you don't need to have everything or everything. So it's like and I know especially for my wife who came from lack. It's a lot. It's more so of a monetary or time. Like if we have the time and the money, it's more like a yes because she wants our daughter to experience everything and our son too. Just like, but I think for us, well, I'll say for me, I've been kind of leaning into how to make, especially my daughter, more resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And that is by saying no and making her earn more things.
There it is.
So that's kind of where I've been. And give you an example particularly. So the last couple of years in softball, and I think the first year in softball for sure, like, it's a lot of pouring on, like giving her a lot of affirmation, like ice cream after the games. And like, if she tries something new and like goes hard, like, we'll go for ice cream or something. And this year, and in her, she's an athlete. She made the All Star game every year she's played. Blah blah blah. It's rec league stuff, so it's not like something big. But so this year I was like, hey, like we're not doing ice cream for stuff. Like I got to see you just want to do well. And so like she'd be random. She's like, man, Dad said he's never, she's extreme. He's never gonna
Right.
take me for ice cream ever. I'm like, or she'd be like, was that ice cream worthy? I'm like, well, we're not judging that on ice cream. Well, not even not well so much on the other things that leads to as well. Like we shouldn't be rewarding with food and that type of thing anyway.
Right.
But more so just trying to have her see in herself that she has an internal drive and it's not exterior factors. Long-winded answer to say why I'm kind of the stickler of things. And I think a lot of us as dads are that anyway. So I agree.
Yeah. It's funny because you're speaking about how your wife came from black, and so did I. But my mindset is still different, right? Like when I hear them asking for things, right? I'm like, I always, maybe not always, but very often weigh it against like, how did I come up, right? Like, how did I experience this or not experience this? Do
Mm-hmm.
they need to have that, right? And um, like you said, I want there to be some drive to do things, right? But I don't think our dynamic is the same as far as um, reward for accomplishing things. They very often just ask to do those things because they want to be exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where the struggle may be is, are they going to fully commit to it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's because there's a difference between giving it, like trying it, and then within 2 weeks time, like, I don't really like that, I don't want to, like, no, we
Yeah.
commit to things and we
Right.
finish. Like now,
Mm-hmm.
next season, if you still decide that that's not for you, then let's try to find something else. But yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from on that for sure, man. But I also think, you know I came up thinking that when I have kids, they'll want for nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I get that piece for sure. And then now being here, and I'm like, there's got to be a piece of them earning it, right? There's got to be a piece where they experience some sort of sacrifice for the things that they want.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And and I think that was my experience as a child as well, right? Like I remember trying to earn money at a very early age so I could buy the things that I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
So I try to set up chore structures where they can, earn a little bit of money for doing some chores, and then, you know, really understand what it is when they have to come out of pocket to
Mm-hmm.
buy something, or attain something that they want. So yeah, no, I feel that. I think the other thing I wanted to go back to is, the interactions that I witnessed between my wife and the children. Um, and I got to do some more exploring as to why it is, I guess. But that the way that she is able to interact with them when they, I'll say, quote unquote, claim that they're hurt,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
right? It's
Talk
like,
about it.
come on, man.
Talk about it.
Right? Like, because it's funny for me, like, I'm just, many times I like will see what happened. And so I inherently know, like, you're not actually that hurt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
in that specific scenario, you were more scared.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. But right now, you're also crying like you broke your leg. So,
Right.
and, she'll lean in and just handle that situation a lot differently, man. I'm like, I don't, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's my job. I don't think it is.
Yeah, that's a good point. It isn't, I don't think. Meaning someone there has to be balance in the relationship, right? Someone has to
Hmm.
be more nurturing and someone has to be a little less, right?
Right,
Because
right.
it can go to the deep end either way. Like we could be super, like for me, I could be super stoic and not show. And even though inside I'm like, man, that's real intense, but not show it. Um, but the kids might need more outwardly showing emotion and care. Um, so it's good to have both, I think, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah.
And that, the funny thing is, that's one thing that I kind of get mad about sometimes, right?
Okay. Tell me more.
Well, it's because, like, on one hand, she will come from the same stance that I do, and then like a minute later, she's like cuddling them and holding them, and I'm like, I don't understand.
Right. I only have one stance. It doesn't morph into.
Right? Like, so in my mind, it's like that's offering conflicting instruction or
Yeah.
conflicting stories, right? So how does that work, and why does it work?
Yeah. I mean, it does work.
Yeah, it does, right? And like, I mean, as a kid, I'm sure that's what I wanted. Like, okay, you've established that I'm not really hurt, but I also want to be tended to,
Hmm.
right? That feels good.
Yeah.
And then as an adult male, I'm like, walk it off.
Yeah. Man, but then don't we do that as husbands?
What do you mean?
Like, there may be something that is not as big of a deal, but we want to know that
Don't
she
do that to
cares
me.
about it.
Don't you do that to me.
I'm just, I'm just saying, like, as you stopped that, I was like, man, that's what we do. Like, well, I think this is the thing now that I think about it. So for me, I'll just talk about me. I'll rationalize away the little things so that I'm not tended to, or I
Hmm.
don't even give a space to be tended to. And when I see my kids not do that, I'm like, man, like they need to not let this affect them. But at the same time, what you just said hit me like never before. Like, it feels good to be tended to, even though everyone knows like this is not a big deal. But to have a little bit of attention, a little bit of like of that nurturing, I think we want that. But like we don't at the same time.
I gotta take a drink of water. Sorry.
I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I've
Mm.
never thought about that. And this conversation just turned, and I'm not excited about that.
Yeah, be afraid. Um, so I'm picking up what you're putting down right there, right?
Tough.
And what I'm thinking is we lean so heavily into walk it off, even with our own emotions, right?
Hmm.
Walk it off, walk it off, walk it off. But we also, like you're saying, want to be tended to. So in those moments where we feel like we can no longer just walk it off, we have this expectation that we set, whether we state it or not, that we still want to be tended to. And what if we're basically setting this scenario where, how do I put this? We Our actions have set an expectation that we don't necessarily want to be tended to. So then maybe that is the reaction we get, and then we get upset that we're not being tended to when we've shown that we don't necessarily want to, but in our heart of hearts, we do.
That's exactly what I was going to say, but that's why I shut up because I'm like, he's probably going to say the same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
we set the standard of not wanting or needing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also to on top of that, there's an acceptable level of discomfort for us. We're like, man, we should really get tended to. But I think we're not consistent about where that level is, or we don't
Mm-hmm.
communicate where that level is. So we could want to be tended to, but it seems like it's on the same level of not needing attended. So then we don't get that attention, and then we're kind of pissy about it.
And so let me just throw this out there. Like I hope this podcast is known for being real. So I'm about to get real, and it might make some men out there a little uncomfortable. And I'm short on time. However, this conversation needs to be had. How do you want to be tended to? Meaning, well, I'll ask this question. When's the last time your wife held you? When's the last time you were hurt and felt, I need to be tended to? And the reason I bring this up is the last time I think I became that vulnerable was probably when I had a family member die.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, I'm asking a lot of questions here. Is it appropriate as a man to quote unquote be tended to for times where we have been affected negatively less than death of a family member?
Man, when was the last time I was tended to? I can't remember. Um,
Let's say outside of sex.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm saying
Yeah.
I don't remember. When's the last time I rationalized myself to even let myself want to be tended to?
Thank you for saying so.
That's another story. And should we or do we? I think when you started to ask that question, I was thinking of how we're raising our kids, and
Mm.
that's we want them to be able to verbalize all these things, but then like we don't do that.
Right.
Um, so like we want everyone to have a voice to be able to express, so that they're not suppressing any emotions. However they get that out is, based on their personality. But uh, I guess the better question is, were we even taught or able to express, or was that the expectation for us? Um, and I think the answer is no. But I can't remember the last time, and it's bugging me now, because that is a vulnerable space. And
Right.
it's like, man, and I think even if we just said, hey, like, I just put my head in your lap, like, I really just need you right now. Like, there would be, it would be interesting if she was like, nah, I'm good. I'm out of
Right.
here. Right. If this is the woman that you decided that we have our best interests at heart for each of us,
Yep.
and you didn't do something dumb 2 seconds before that, right? You know what I mean? If it's a true vulnerable space of like, man, like, let me just put my head right here. It's a really rough day.
Yeah.
Um, and so
And then
maybe,
you talk about it.
yeah, yeah. And maybe it's how we get there is setting up kind of rules of engagement in that space, right? Like if you're a person that verbal processes and you want to talk about it right in that moment while your head's in her lap, awesome. Using that, just this is like the example, but maybe it takes you a little while. So you're like, hey, like, I don't want to talk about this right now, but can I just do this and then set up a time, because she's gonna have all the questions. So you
Yeah.
can't just be like, yeah, let me put my head in your lap and then get up and be like, all right, I'm good, see ya. Like, that would be unfair, I would say.
Right. Right.
One, if you're a person of faith and your wife prays for you, like, that would be very helpful for her to be tuned in. Um,
Mhm.
I think we have to get used to or okay with it not being a crisis or not being what we would deem stressful or terrible, and be okay to still be tended to. Because for me, it's like it's got to be on the extreme before I'm even like, all right, I'm falling apart. I need all of you right now. It's like,
Yeah.
this is not a good time. I'm holding literally everything else in our family right now. So,
Right. Right.
but if you had given me some clues and let me in a little bit early, maybe we
Yeah.
maybe we wouldn't have come to right here.
Right.
So,
Oh man. So the last thing I want to bring up is, what do we expect in prayer? There's that parent child relationship there, right? And when we're feeling broken, we tend to pray, but what are we really asking for? What if it's just, can you tell me it's going to be okay? Right? Even if the question sounds different, in the end, I think it's, can you just tell me? Can you just show me it's going to be okay?
mm,
Right? Like we know how slow the path can be sometimes to where we're trying to get to, while we're even trying to figure out if that's even what God wants for us, right?
right.
And then, I'll say me, often will cry in prayer,
Mm-hmm.
um, as I'm just, feeling whatever the conviction is. And I think that's what I'm looking for. And it's funny that I don't always allow that space for my wife to just, hey, here's what's going on. Can you just tell me it's going to be okay? Right. Just that little bit of push in the direction of, I can keep going because she believes in me, and she's down for whatever it takes. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's good. Um, yeah, I think definitely define what okay means.
Yeah.
Like, is that it's gonna be fixed right now, or in the end, our marriage is gonna stand this test,
Hmm.
right? Or it's not gonna feel like this forever, or whatever the situation is. Um, I think you make a good point of expressing kind of what you need in that moment.
Hmm.
And maybe it's outside of that moment. It's like, hey, in this scenario, if it ever comes up, you know, it'd be really good to be encouraged that we're going to get through this. Even though
Right.
I know it and you know it, sometimes to just audibly hear it does
Yeah.
wonders. Right. And exactly what you expressed, like knowing that you have my back, I have your back. We've stood through a bunch of these things. Sometimes just hearing that is
Yeah.
amazing.
And knowing even if this doesn't go the way we want it to, I'll still be here.
That part, because our minds will freak out and forget the entire history of our marriage
Uh-huh.
and our relationship before marriage. How this woman stood by us in a
Right.
lot of crazy things, even when we were being idiots. So now when we're putting our best foot forward, why would she waste that investment, number one,
Right.
or
Right. Right.
two, miss out on the growth that's happening? I think that's a good point. We have to sometimes hearing it jolts us back into our memory, like, oh yeah, like she's down.
Yeah. But it's still nice to hear.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's nice to hear that that's it. Uh yeah, that's a good thought. That's a good
Yeah.
point.
So I'll have to listen back to this episode to track how we got here,
Man,
but I'm happy we did.
right. It took a turn. I wasn't ready for it.
But yeah,
Um
man, that's all I got.
yeah. I mean, because it's gone so different ways, I don't even know how to wrap it up because I but yeah, we're out here open and transparent
Yeah.
and honest. So
And who knew that would be fun? It was crazy.
yeah. But yeah, thank you for catching this conversation. Um, in its turns, all the nooks and crannies. We appreciate that. If you've gotten anything out of this episode, please share it with someone. Have a conversation. Allow it to be a conversation starter. Um, please subscribe to the channel so you can get all the updates of when new episodes come out. Um, Hit us up if you want to contact us, either searching as Marriage is Tougher on all social media outlets or going to marriagestougher.com. Again, if you'd like to be a guest or you have any specific comments you want to make, you can hit the contact form and we'll reach back out to you. We really appreciate you. We are here just to have a conversation between us and just to share it that hopefully it benefits you. So until next time, we'll see you.
Peace.